The room smelled of betrayal. Daniel stood frozen at the door, his wife Lily's laughter echoing from their bedroom, the same room where they had once whispered promises of forever. He pushed the door open, his chest heaving, and the scene shattered him. Lily tangled in the sheets, her body entwined with Michael, his closest friend, the man who had shared his table, his drinks, his trust. They didn't even look guilty. Michael smirked, and Lily had the audacity to roll her eyes, as though Daniel was the intruder in his own home. Maybe if you weren't so busy working, Daniel, Lily spat coldly, you'd still have me. The humiliation burned like acid in his veins. That night wasn't just betrayal. It was the birth of something darker. Revenge. Daniel had always believed in loyalty, in building a life brick by brick through trust and sacrifice. For 10 years, he had worked endless hours at the firm, climbing the ladder, convinced he was securing the kind of future Lily deserved. Every late night, every missed dinner, was justified in his mind, until the night he found out where Lily really spent those lonely hours. At first, he crumbled. He drank himself into oblivion, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the images of her skin against Michael's. Shame ate at him. Everywhere he went, he imagined whispers, colleagues, neighbors, all laughing at the fool who had been cheated by his wife and best friend. But pain soon twisted into rage. He started digging. Daniel discovered that Michael wasn't just a lover. He was scheming with Lily. The two had been siphoning money from Daniel's accounts, draining the savings meant for their children's future. They had plans, a new life, abroad, bought with Daniel's sweat. They weren't just unfaithful. They were parasites. Daniel's days became consumed by plotting. He studied Michael's movements, tracked Lily's calls, memorized their lies. Every sleepless night carved something new into him. Patience. He realized he didn't want to simply expose them. That would be too merciful. No, he wanted to ruin them, to make them taste the ash of everything they'd built from his betrayal. The more he planned, the more he withdrew. Friends stopped calling. His sister worried about the hollow look in his eyes, but he brushed her off. His work suffered, though he disguised it well. In truth, Daniel was living for one thing only: the day his revenge would unfold. And yet, as the weeks turned to months, something hollow remained inside him. Even as he sketched out every move, every downfall, he found himself staring into the mirror, whispering, "Will this ever heal me?" But he silenced the question. Healing was irrelevant. Destruction was all that mattered. One night, Daniel stood outside Michael's office building, watching him laugh with coworkers. For a fleeting moment, Daniel remembered the old days, nights spent drinking together, laughing about nothing. The memory stabbed him, but instead of softening him, it fueled his fury. Michael had mocked that friendship, desecrated it. No mercy, no second thoughts. By the time Daniel was ready, his plan was a masterpiece of cold precision. He wouldn't simply take them down. He'd make them turn on each other, choking on their own greed and betrayal. And so, the trap was set. It began subtly. Daniel funneled false leads into Michael's path, whispers of lucrative deals, insider opportunities. Michael, greedy as ever, bit without hesitation. Daniel carefully manipulated documents, forged signatures, and planted evidence that would all point back to Michael. At the same time, he began sending Lily anonymous messages, hinting that Michael had plans of his own, that he intended to cut her out and disappear with the money. Seeds of distrust grew in the cracks of their so-called love. Lily's temper began to rise, her paranoia consuming her. Weeks later, Michael walked into what he thought was a $1 million deal. Instead, he walked into an investigation, Daniel's carefully orchestrated storm. The authorities swarmed, uncovering fraud, embezzlement, laundering. Everything pointed to Michael. Lily, desperate and panicked, tried to save herself by selling Michael out, giving false testimony to protect her own skin. But Daniel had ensured her fingerprints were everywhere. Their betrayal of him had become a noose tightening around their necks, and they pulled it tighter themselves. The once laughing lovers were now broken. Michael behind bars, Lily bankrupt, abandoned by the very people she thought she could manipulate. Daniel watched from the shadows, his lips curling into the faintest smile. His revenge was complete. And yet, when he returned to his empty home, silence greeted him. The rooms echoed not with laughter, not even with pain, but with hollowness. Victory didn't feel like triumph. It felt like ashes in his throat. He had destroyed them, yes. But in doing so, he had destroyed pieces of himself. The man who once dreamed of family, of warmth, was gone. One night, Daniel looked at himself in the mirror, the same mirror that had watched him descend into this madness. His reflection stared back with lifeless eyes. He whispered to himself, "I won, but at what cost?" The truth cut deeper than betrayal ever had. Revenge hadn't healed him. It had consumed him, left him empty, stripped of everything but shadows. Moral of the story: revenge may shatter your enemies, but in the end, it leaves nothing but ruins inside your own soul.